Dear imaginary reader, unless you are from a future so far distant from my present that I cannot guess at the fantastic nature of its engines, and you have some means of travel that lies beyond my comprehension, the idea of machine-powered flight must be commonplace for you. Even for the young Harold Winslow, flight was not unheard of, though the drawing boards of Prospero Taligent's engineers had yet to produce reliable mass transit airborne devices that wouldn't tip over and fall to the ground in flames. There were flying cars, for instance, though not the fleets of them that choked the skyways of some cities in my final days on Earth. You might have gone weeks without sighting one, but they were there. So when I say that there was nothing to which young Harold's flight to the tower compared, and that there are few events in my life for which I could say this, then you may be reluctant to take me at my word. But believe me, when Harold was hundreds of feet in the air over the bay that lay between his family's apartment and the city's downtown, the wind rushing by him and filling his ears, his only support the demon whose arms gripped him so tightly that he would later find 2 bands of dark purple bruises across his back. Well, the only thing he could think was that life must have been something like this during the age of miracles that his father sometimes talked about. Not exactly like this, but something like this. Something close. This feeling doesn't last for him for long, though. For one thing, he's somewhat uncomfortable. Also, because of the position in which he's pinned, he can't see as much as he'd like. He can look over the demon's shoulder to see the sky above him, and when the demon banks for one of its occasional swooping turns, he can look out the corner of his eye to see the water of the bay beneath him. Eventually, he gets used to this awkward situation, and he nods off in the demon's arms for a little while, in the way that young children can fall asleep in the most unlikely of places. He hasn't been sleeping well this past week, and something about being up this high in the air makes him lightheaded, forcing him to drowse against his better judgment. When he wakes again, he sees an angel just above him, flying on the same course as the demon that holds him. The rising sun gleams off its face, which is an expressionless mask of silver, with full lips and a nose with wide, flared nostrils. Its eyes are blank and have no pupils. A yellow neon halo is fastened above its head, and it blinks on and off at regular intervals, like a sign hanging in front of a diner. Its wingspan is wider than that of the demon that carries Harold, and each feather of its wings is long, white, and distinctly detailed. Harold thinks that the feathers might even be real, plucked from birds of a species with which he's not familiar. In the angel's arms is a girl in a sleeveless white dress who looks down at Harold. Her dark curling tresses toss in the wind and obscure her face from him. "Crazy," the girl screams at Harold as best she can. "Crazy." She yells some more things to him that are unintelligible, and Harold says nothing, not knowing how to respond. The angel suddenly rises upward, pulling the girl away from him, and Harold can see that it is one of a triangle-shaped phalanx of 10 that's flying in formation, each one holding a little girl that is smiling, or weeping, or passed out from terror. He turns his head as much as he can and figures out that the demon carrying him has joined a similar configuration, and that the other 9 demons nearby are ferrying little boys like himself. One of them is letting forth loud, exuberant yells. "Yahoo! Yee-haw!" The demon carrying Harold banks sharply, and after recovering from the sudden jolt, he can see that he is above Zeroville's downtown, with the people on the streets below reduced to the size of ants. In fact, he and all the other mechanical angels and demons who hold their party guests have formed a single line and are now circling the Taligent Tower, climbing higher and higher in a spiral that has the tower in its center. He can see inside the windows of the tower as he flies by, though he doesn't get more than a couple of seconds to look through each. He sees secretaries seated at long rows of desks, banging away at typewriters. He sees men in wire-rimmed spectacles and lab coats, operating devices with mysterious purposes that seem unimaginably complex. He sees a man sitting at a grand piano and playing it while a researcher has his head poked beneath its propped-up lid, carefully observing the movements of its hammers and strings. The demon that holds Harold reaches the roof of the tower and flies through a wide, high loop above it, bringing back discomforting memories for Harold of the Nigel Empire's tornado. It orients itself so that its feet are pointing downward and lands on the roof of the tower, breaking into a rapid run once again as soon as it makes contact. It manages to bring itself to a stop before running off the roof's edge, and its arms fly open. unceremoniously dropping Harold on his bottom without warning as he scratches up the palms of his hands in an attempt to break his fall. Harold comes awkwardly to his feet and sees other boys and girls with dazed expressions scattered across the roof. They are being tended to by Prospero's servants, who are leading them to an elevator that will presumably take them down into the tower itself. The 10 demons and angels that brought them here are standing near them in still as statues, their single purpose for existing served. In the distance, Harold can see another late-arriving squadron of mechanical demons that carry 10 more boys, lit from behind by the rising sun. He feels a hand on his shoulder and turns to look up at Gideon, the man who'd sold him the whistle inside the camera obscura. Gideon has a smile on his face, but there is no hint of menace in it, nor salesman's guile. He's genuinely happy. "I knew you'd make it," says Gideon. "I knew you'd make it." He begins to steer Harold toward the entrance to the elevator. "Come with me. We'll get you cleaned up and refreshed after your trip. Then we'll take you all to the banquet hall, and the birthday party will begin." "We have so many wonderful things planned for you," says Gideon. "I've seen what's in store for you with my own eyes, and I can't even make my mind accept it. You can't imagine. You cannot even imagine."